Okay. Should you stop masturbating? Well, if you want to find the right girlfriend, life partner or wife, you don't have to stop. But there are several benefits to at least decreasing the frequency. How much and what the benefits are, we're going to explore today. First of all, we have to clarify that there's a big difference between masturbating and masturbating while watching porn. And there's a difference between masturbating and coming. These are all different things. So most of the time, when people talk about masturbating, they talk about ejaculation, having an orgasm, and then coming. That's really the essence of what we're talking about. Because as you'll realize later, you can theoretically masturbate as much as you want. You can have as much intimacy as you want. If you don't come, then you won't experience any of the negative downsides. And there really aren't any negative downsides to having sex and actually having an orgasm and coming, unless it's not your intention to get the lady pregnant. Well, in that case, you should obviously take precautions and use condoms, which you should do anyway, unless you're obviously in a committed relationship and you've both gotten tested. But I digress. There is a book written called Your Brain on Porn. I actually haven't even read it, but a friend of mine recommended it to me, and he basically gave me a summary, and it was good enough. I got the idea. Whether it's true or not, whether it's perfectly backed by science or not, I'm sure you've realized that if you watch too much porn, it messes something up in your brain. And the idea that some people talk about is that you have such a strong dopamine release that you really get hooked on it, and that it can mess with your experience of joy throughout the rest of your life, because it's such an intense experience that it's almost comparable to drugs. So, first of all, porn is something you should cut out, absolutely. And again, you can use it as a special treat. If you do it 2-3 times a year, no problem, right? Same with weed. If you do that 2-3 times a year, perhaps it's fine. If you do it on a regular basis, it's going to mess up your brain. Same with alcohol. If you do it as a special occasion very rarely, it's fine. If you do it too often, not. So porn, absolutely you should cut that out. It's going to mess with your brain. It's going to mess with your sense of intimacy, what's real, and you're going to, maybe you've had that where you watch something and then at some point it's not enough to watch normal amateur porn, for example, and then you want something a little bit more intense and something a little bit more intense, and then just keeps going up and up, and that's not healthy for any real relationship. And also, there's another theory that's a little bit interesting, that some people say that there's so many men who like to get cucked these days, who like to watch their woman get fucked by another man. Where does that come from? Because historically that hasn't been a thing, at least as far as we know. Maybe there was simply a lack of reports on it. But the idea of where it comes from, the hypothesis, is that if you watch that much porn, you train yourself to experience pleasure at the thought or at the image of another woman making love. And most of the time it has nothing to do with love. It's just pure pounding with another man. And you train yourself to experience pleasure at the sight of that. That's one idea. So porn you should definitely cut out. So those are the initial differences. So what Andrew Huberman and other people talk about is that when you jerk off and you come, there's a prolactin release in your brain. And again, I'm not a scientist. I speak very much more from my own experience. And remember, I've had clients from 29, 30 different countries. And if you're a dating coach, obviously these are subjects we discuss. We actually do seminars on sex for our clients as well. It's purely Zoom, right? Not in person. No weird stuff. Don't worry about it. But we obviously help clients with their intimate performance on how they can sexually satisfy their partner better as well, because it's really amazing. Because a lot of men have insecurities and uncertainties around all kinds of intimate aspects. Obviously we help with that. So I've had countless conversations. So this is not just me making stuff up. This is stuff that's very much backed by at least personal experience from myself and working with clients from nearly 30 countries from all around the world. So that prolactin release in your brain that sets in the second you come, you've experienced the effects of that. You feel relaxed, you feel kind of good. Now that's just not just prolactin, it's probably but dopamine and serotonin and other stuff as well. I don't know the exact names of the hormones and neurotransmitters that are being released, but that prolactin makes you lethargic. It takes out your energy. Do you feel more driven to take action before you jerk off or after? And what I mean by taking action is going out there and socializing, meeting women during the day, in a shopping mall, in a gym. Or you're like, I'm okay. My balls are already empty. Even Jordan Peterson talks about it. If you want to get yourself to take action, there has to be a degree of dissatisfaction. We're going to get to that in a second. But you have to understand that if you keep jerking off 5 times a week, 7 times a week, once a day-ish on average, which is what most people do, 5 to 7 times a week, you rob yourself of an inherent drive to take action. You can really increase your natural levels of hunger and drive and motivation in life in general. I'm not just talking to find the right girlfriend, life partner, or wife. Be motivated in your career, your business. Obviously, a lot of that comes from a psychological component, which is a compelling future. You have to have a compelling future that really excites you. Tiny little tangent before I get back on track. If you sometimes experience maybe a lack of enthusiasm and excitement for life, you're not working towards a vision of everyday life that would excite you. It's very important. If you don't feel genuinely excited, could that be lack of social, if it's not a physiological reason, right? Let's say your physiological needs are all taken care of, sleep and all of that, right? And you have enough social contact, then you're not working towards a vision of what life could be like that would actually excite you. So if you just do that all the time, you rob yourself of your natural drive to get out there. Now again, you don't have to cut it out completely. I don't really think that's a sustainable solution for anybody. But even just decreasing the frequency of masturbation from once a day to once every 2 to 3 days, so 2 to 3 days a week, as opposed to 5 or 7 times a week, cutting it in half, bringing it down to a third of the original frequency will definitely have a massively positive impact, at least for a period of time. And ask yourself, is it really necessary? Is it really the most noble action to lie there and jerk off? And again, I don't want you to feel bad about it either. I'm not a fan of putting shame on that, on making you feel bad when you're lying there at night. No, sometimes it's nice. I could fall asleep right now. I'm feeling pretty good. It'd be even better. Help myself fall asleep. Give myself a good little feeling, and it's fine. If you're already coming from a place of, hey, I'm already good. This is nice. This is my treat. I worked real hard for the last 2 to 3 days. Yeah. Now, the question is, why aren't you doing that with a woman? Why aren't you in a relationship with somebody who's doing that for you? So, and yeah, obviously, if you want my help with that, apply for a free initial consultation call with the link underneath this. Because the single best way to solve all of this is to simply have real sex. Because Andrew Huberman, I believe, cited some studies that indicate that if you have sex on a regular basis, it increases testosterone by up to 70%. Okay? So it has a lot of positive side effects, and you can come as much as you want as long as you're doing it with a real partner. Zero downside. So absolutely click the link below, right underneath this video, right after this video, or if you're listening to it on Spotify, wherever you're listening to it, apply for a free initial consultation call, and we're going to map out a plan on how you can find the right girlfriend, life partner, or a wife. But that being said, while you're there, while you're on your journey, it's perfectly fine to give yourself that treat. But don't do it because you're bored. And absolutely decrease the frequency, because just try it out. Here's my invitation. Don't jerk off for 2 weeks and see what happens. You will want to socialize, because what I teased into earlier, if you want to change any area in your life, then you have to have a degree of dissatisfaction. There has to be discomfort. There has to be a degree of pain. Pain is a very good motivator. There's pain and there's pleasure. We want to move away from something and we want to move towards something. And maybe if you're a man, look, perhaps you're a software engineer, maybe you're a business owner who's slightly more introverted, perhaps you're extroverted. 80% of my clients are hugely introverted. I'm very, 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 very extroverted. If you're a man with a career that demands a lot of cerebral activity and you may not be that social, well, the thought of going out there and going on more dates, and facing your insecurities, even if it's just mainly with online dating that you're using, still going out there, working on the skill set of improving your communication skills, that can seem a little bit daunting. You don't even have to go to bars or clubs if you don't want to. It doesn't have to go that far. You can, absolutely, and it's amazing. And it would really help you in a variety of different ways that you can't even anticipate it. But at least being able to speak to a woman in a Starbucks, in a shopping mall, trust me, if you haven't fed the geese in 2 weeks, or if you haven't strengthened the, what do you call it, the iron wrist, babe? If you haven't strengthened your iron wrist in the last 2 weeks, you will be way more motivated to take action inherently. There has to be an element of deprivation. I believe that's how Jordan Peterson puts it. How high does the element of deprivation have to be for you to move towards socializing and finding a partner for life? Well, it's not zero. It's definitely not zero. And whenever you experience zero discontent in any area of your life, you're very unlikely to take action. So the more you increase the pain, and there's a variety of different ones of doing that. One little thought experiment is asking yourself, how is my life going to be in 5 or 10 years if I'm either with the wrong woman, I lose half of my shit in a divorce, or I simply waste 5 to 10 to 15 years? Because I'm alone, I'm not getting the intimacy that I want, I'm not getting the respect, somebody with shared values, somebody that I can have a family with. How miserable is it going to be? And you just do that for yourself. It's a little thought exercise. And then also, oh, fuck, I don't want that. And then it increases your willingness to change. But you have to keep in mind what Günther Schmidt, one of Germany's best psychologists, says. Simply increasing your willingness to change by increasing pain is not enough. Because increasing pain may help you with your willingness, but not necessarily your own sense of competence. And one of the most important things that I help my clients with is feeling competent. Yes, driven, but also competent. You want to, and you know that. Maybe you have to give a presentation at work, you're in a client meeting, discussing something with your business partners, and sometimes you feel more competent and grounded and sometimes less. That is something that you can achieve almost all the time, and you can learn to turn that on in a dating context as well. So obviously there's a skill set component, but it starts with drive and a desire to take action. Tony Robbins says massive action is the cure-all. Take action first, you will find the strategies. And this is one very powerful tool. Again, I'm not telling you that you can never jerk off at all anymore, at all. I'm not even saying that you can never watch porn again, but porn should be like a 2 to 3 years times a year kind of thing. And this, try to do it once a week. See what happens if you do it once a week. You will be more driven. You will want to get out there and socialize in a healthy fashion. I mean, what is a more noble pursuit? Going out there, introducing yourself in a respectful and effective way, seeing if there's a connection, scheduling a date, going through an evaluation process and finding the right girlfriend, life partner, wife, or lying at home, crying, catching your tears, using the tears as lubricant, and jerking yourself to sleep.